So there's this Chinese-American Republican named Kenny Shu, who's basically what Candace Owens would be if Candace Owens's soul was transfixed into the body of an Asian man. Now, Shu wrote this book entitled The Inconvenient Minority, which details how affirmative action punishes Asians for their success, punishes Asians for their excellence, and does not in the long run help other minorities of color, right? Now, I'm not here to debate that book. I haven't read it, and you cannot express an informed opinion on a piece of literature if you haven't read it yet. So I'm not here to debate Shu's most famous book. But I am here to debate a certain video that he made, right, on his YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm going to put a link to his YouTube channel in the description box. He's got around 1.67 subscribers, Kenny Shu. That's nearly 3 times the amount of subscribers I've got. So it's not bad. It's quite a big channel. Not humongous by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly bigger than my Anchovy channel. Anyway, it's not the number of subscribers that really counts, but the quality of your content that really counts in my view. So whether I have like 1 subscriber or 1,000 or 10,000 doesn't really matter to me, as long as there's somebody listening, right? This video that he made is called What the Left Thinks of Asian Americans. Now, I'm just going to play you the audio. I'll put a link of the video in the description box here so you can check it out yourself and make up your own mind, right? But I'm interested to know what the left thinks about. Now, I'm interested to know what people on the right think that I think about Asian Americans, because, I am an evil, degenerate, leftist, communist heathen. So let's hear what this guy has to say. Okay.
What does the left really think about Asian Americans?
Oh, yeah. Typical Prager opening. What does the left blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. The evil left. Okay, let's play it.
I'll tell you what, there was a guy named Dennis Kearney in the late 1800s during the California Gold Rush. He was a labor union leader, a classic liberal, anti-monopoly, pro-union, very much would be on the left of the political spectrum today.
Does this guy even know what a classical liberal is? Now, a classical liberal is not the same as a leftist Bernie bro or a condescending white liberal like Joe Biden. A classical liberal is the sort of fella like Jordan Peterson or Tony Abbott or Bill Maher or John Stuart Mill, the English philosopher, who do have some conception of individual liberty, right? Who do believe in certain liberal principles based on Enlightenment ideals, but at the same time would certainly not be counted as left today, right? In fact, classical liberals in a Western sense often demonstrate a very, very chauvinistic Western attitude, right? They demonstrate very profound Western chauvinism many times, and what they perceive as liberty, what they perceive as freedom, usually means Westernization. So, no, classical liberals are not typically what you would describe as leftists. And in fact, they have the same protectionist attitude towards Western civilization and the same chauvinistic imperialist point of view. Now, you can read up what John Stuart Mill has said about certain races, right? You can read it up. Classical liberals are not the same as multicultural left-wing Bernie bros. They're not the same as that group, yeah. In fact, many of them would be considered right-wing today. People like Tony Abbott or Jordan Peterson, right? Yeah. And of course, even those who don't identify as left-wing, people like Bill Maher, are more than happy to collaborate with the far right when they feel there's an existential threat to Western civilization. So no, classical liberal and modern day Bernie bro are not the same thing. Sorry, I've been rambling on that point for too long.
But when the Chinese immigrants came to seek better opportunities from China to come to the gold rush and dig and mine and build railroads to send money back to their family, Dennis Kearney got very annoyed. This man who wasn't an immigrant, he was a Native American, sought to make Chinese Americans his enemy.
Dennis Kearney was a Native American? Okay, let's look up Dennis Kearney. See this fella here? Let's make it bigger, clearer. Dennis Kearney, yeah. Dennis Kearney, okay, Dennis Kearney is let's check up his bio. Dennis Kearney, 1847 to 1907, was a California labor leader from Ireland, so he wasn't Native American, who was active in the late 19th century and was known for his racist views about Chinese immigrants. Right, I think he's the character that Larry is based on in the TV series Warrior. You know, Larry, the super racist Irish leader, right? But I don't think by any stretch Dennis Kearney would be on the left today. In fact, I think he would be on the alt-right if he was alive today, okay? All right, let's keep going.
The reason why? Because the Chinese immigrants would work harder, they would work smarter, they would work in packs, and they wouldn't complain at all.
Yep, don't complain. That's a favorite type of worker, according to the bourgeois, right? The worker who shuts up, does their job, and doesn't complain, right? Not to mention the fact that Chinese workers were often indentured servants, they were often exploited, not only in America, but in the Malay Peninsula. My ancestors were also exploited for a pittance, right? By capitalist bourgeoisie, both colonizing bourgeoisie from Europe as well as local Uncle Chans. No mention at all of the fact that Chinese workers were also just as exploited as the Irish workers, just that they were more productive and they kept their mouths shut and didn't complain. Because they had opium to fall back on.
Dennis Kearney got really annoyed by this, so annoyed that he started making speeches in front of a nativist rebellion of people. And he convinced so many people that he actually went straight to the California government and convinced the California government to pass an exclusion act against Chinese Americans. Why? Because Chinese Americans during that time worked harder, and thus they produced more competition that the native-born Americans didn't like. They didn't like having to compete against other people, especially when those other people didn't look like them and had weird little hair and were totally not attractive and not sexy.
Not attractive and not sexy. So what exactly is attractive and sexy, Kenny? You mean a big muscle man like Conan the Barbarian with lots of muscles? You're talking about like a guy who's attractive by Anglo-Saxon Western standards, right? Like, or are you actually admitting, Kenny, that Asian men are not physically attractive? Do you actually believe that? Compared to white men, you're actually saying that Asian men are not physically attractive.
Dennis Kearney exploited those stereotypes, and he created the very first act to exclude a single ethnic group from this country ever. And still,
no, he didn't. He appealed to the authorities, but the President of the United States created that act. Dennis Kearney was just a labor union leader, right? A very racist son of a bitch at that. But it was the American president who signed and drafted that act, okay? He and his cabinet. Yet, why place the blame on Kearney? Kearney is just true, he was a racist piece of shit, but Kearney didn't have any more political power than the sticks and stones in the forest. He was led to believing he had political power, but at the end of the day, it was the guys in the Oval Office who created, drafted, and signed that act, okay?
Still today, the Chinese Exclusion Act is the only act to ever exclude a single ethnic group in this country. Now, that wasn't passed from from the conservative side of the spectrum. That was passed from the leftist side of the spectrum. If we look at parallels today, I think there are many. The left does not like hard work. It does not like meritocracy. It does not like the idea that we should be treated based on the hard work that we have, partially because the left itself does not value hard work.
I don't know. That's a very, very bold claim to make. I mean, I'm a leftist. I have 2 jobs. I offer my labor to 2 separate tuition centers, and I have a couple of students of my own. And to top that up, I have a YouTube channel here to manage that doesn't give me any monetary reward. I do it because of my passion, nothing more than that, right? I mean, so to say that the left doesn't value hard work is a very sweeping claim. You know, people on the left don't work hard. Look, if I didn't like hard work, I would be a grifter. Yeah, you can make a very good living for yourself by grifting on the right. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm not saying that this Kenny Shu is a grifter. I don't want to say whether or not he's sincere about what he says, right? He's probably sincere. But I'm not talking about Kenny Shu, but if I really wanted to make a buck quickly, I would be pandering for white applause, yeah? You can make a lot more money by pandering to the white masses, by using typical right-wing Western talking points, right? If I wanted to make a quick buck for, minimal effort, all I would need to do would be to spend 1 day parroting typical right-wing Anglo-Western Fox News talking points, right? Because one colored face on Fox News or PragerU is worth 10 white faces, right? Because a Yeonmi Park or a Amula Akmanobi or a what else? Or a Thomas Sowell is worth a lot more than a Mitt Romney when it comes to the optics, when it comes to right-wing American optics, because they seem to think that a colored face carries a lot more weight, right, than a white male heterosexual heteronormative face, right? That's why PragerU always puts like their token black guy or their token Arab guy or their token Asian guy whenever they want to address racial issues, right? They always never use white faces for that. Why do you think? So if I really didn't value hard work, Kenny, I would be grifting for PragerU, or I would be making those Jordan Peterson or Thomas Sowell reaction videos, like pretending to be, like there's a guy called Doc Rich, who's this guy who started off as a neutral YouTuber. He started off doing like neutral YouTube videos, but he found out there wasn't very much traction being gained, right? Now he's got like 400,000 subscribers, and all the guy does is he gets on YouTube and he just does reaction videos to, famous far-right figures like Jordan Peterson or Thomas Sowell or Ben Shapiro. Like he goes like, "Oh, wow, oh my God, I've never heard that before." Oh, he pretends to be so astounded and amazed by what they say. How he does it with a straight face, I don't know. But obviously that gets you a lot of views because the right wing loves reformed leftists. They reward them handsomely. So if I really didn't value hard work, Kenny, I would be a grifter. Okay?
And so when Asian Americans come into this country and they work hard and they get educated and they focus on building skills, the left looks at that with suspicion.
It's not wrong to build skills, right? I mean, skills are what gives you a trade, a pliable trade, a trade that you can make money off. No leftist in the world looks at building skills and getting an education as a bad thing, okay?
to the point where they start calling people privileged. I remember when I was in college, the left would talk to me and say, you are privileged because you are white adjacent.
Isn't that the same thing as the model minority stereotype that you're trying to push, that the model minority stereotype that you're trying to promote, that Asians have somehow overcome racism and, critical race theory has no room for Asians? Those are your words, Kenny. Because we're the model minority, we've overcome racism. It's only the leftist communist heathens who are racist against us, and not people on the right. Isn't that the same thing that you're trying, the model minority rhetoric, isn't that the same thing that you're trying to push, that Asians are now white adjacent, and basically Asians don't face racism from whites?
How does that make any sense? We have such a completely different background. We face historic discrimination in this society. A lot of our parents came here with nothing. But with our values of hard work, culture, and education, we were able to achieve in this country. This is what the left wants us to become. The left wants us, Asian Americans, to become a victim minority. By the way, this is not
a victim minority. Yeah, apparently only the left has the monopoly on victim culture. But guess what? If I wanted Asian American men to be victims, I'd be saying stuff like, oh no, Asian women are leaving Asian men in droves because of white worship. Because Asian men are seen as less attractive than white men. Do I do that? I'm going to put another link in the description, which is the complete antithesis of that. I've been saying time and again that Asian men should be, we should be proud of our culture, our heritage, our traditions. Don't let anyone talk down on us. Basically, don't let anyone make us feel that we're inferior. And I've been telling Asian men in America that we are the male equivalents of Asian women. So we shouldn't feel that we're less attractive than Asian women. And no, Asian women don't have a natural preference for white men. It's just what the yellow feverists want you to believe, okay? And basically you guys have fallen into that trap, thinking that Asian men are the least attractive race. If I had a victim mentality, I would be some self-pitying, pathetic Asian man going like, Asian men are unattractive. Do I do that? No. I say Asian men are attractive as Asian women, okay? Every race is attractive in its own unique way.
This is not limited just to Asian Americans. This is limited to every minority. The left wants minorities to think about themselves as victims in an oppressed society so they can gain their votes.
Oh, really? The left wants minorities to think of themselves as victims. Okay, let's take a look at one of the most famous figures on the right wing called Jordan Peterson. Let's read what Jordan Peterson has to say in his article, Why I'm No Longer a Tenured Professor at Toronto University. Okay, let's see what Jordan Peterson has to say. Since the left-wing minorities are supposed to be the ones with the monopoly on victim culture. First, my qualified and supremely trained heterosexual white male graduate students face a negligible chance of being offered university research positions. Despite stellar scientific dossiers, this is partly because of the diversity, inclusivity, and equity mandates. Okay, these have been imposed universally in academia, despite the fact that university hiring committees had already done everything reasonable for all the years of my career, and then some, to ensure that no qualified minority candidates were ever overlooked. Okay. I am academic persona non grata because of my unacceptable philosophical positions. And this isn't just some inconvenience. These facts rendered my job morally untenable. How can I accept prospective researchers and train them in good conscience, knowing their employment prospects to be minimal? Right. That doesn't even scratch the surface of it. You should go look and see what some of the stuff that Douglas Murray says. Murray is like the epitome of white fragility. I'll put another link in the video in the description box of an interview that Douglas Murray did. So to pretend that only the left wing has has the monopoly on victim culture is simply disingenuous.
If Asian Americans choose to work hard, they will be resented. If Asian Americans choose to achieve, they will be discriminated against. The left does not value minorities because they work hard. They value minorities because they conform to a leftist privilege and oppression ideology that attacks whites. And when Asian Americans...
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I would argue that the right wing values minorities just in the same way as leftist demagogues do, okay? Like, why do you think all these colored grifters are so popular? Like, why do you think guys who normally have pretty disparaging things to say about African American people in general are at the same time, saying that I have a black friend and my black friend agrees with me. So don't pretend that only the left is all about identity politics. I would argue that the right is worse when it comes to identity politics.
Americans don't conform, they're going to come after us.
Well, I don't conform to your model minority stereotype. I don't keep my mouth shut and my head low. And no leftist has come after me for not conforming to the model minority stereotype. It's all those right-wingers, and not just right-wingers, but alt-righters, who go about white-splaining to me how I'm apparently not Asian enough, not a true Asian, or how, basically that things like, I'm getting attacked. I don't conform to what the right-wing perception of a good Asian is, and I get attacked by a shit ton of right-wingers and alt-righters. When's Kenny Shu going to speak up for guys like me, man?
But I tell you what, if we believe in the American dream, if we believe in meritocracy, if we believe in hard work, if we believe in those values, then we should embrace them. Those are American values. We do not come to this country for socialism. We do not come to...
Socialism, what a dirty word. I love it how, Republicans like to talk about socialism and hard work as if they were mutually exclusive concepts, like as if you can't be a hardworking socialist. If you think that all human beings should have, a dignified life and a civilized standard of living, you must be some lazy, entitled communist bum. So basically, people who believe in, universal health care or, policies that basically ensure every citizen a dignified, civilized standard of living cannot be a hardworking person. It is like almost like, that's what I love about all these bootstraps, rugged individualism Republicans. They talk about, socialism as if it's such a dirty word, even though most of the civilized Western countries, America is not really what I describe as a civilized Western country. I'm talking about countries like Norway or Denmark, practice socialistic policies, right? And are even thinking of implementing a 4-day work week, which is a fucking terrifying prospect for these bootstrap Republicans. Okay.
Come to this country to be handed out or to grievances or to express these kinds of grievances. We came to this country because we believed in the American ideal that our hard work should determine who we are, not our background. This is why when we look at what the left offers, victimhood, a perpetuation of privilege and oppression, and we look at what conservatives and the American dream offers, we should always choose the latter. Thank you.
Okay, well, here's the thing though. Unlike you, Kenny, I don't tell people of color that you're not a true person of color if you vote right. You see, I don't go about saying that, if you're a person of color, you have to vote left or you have to vote right. I don't give people a false dilemma. I let people make up their own minds. Frankly, I don't care which side of the political spectrum you sit on. Those of you who are listening to this video, those you behind the screen, I don't care. I'm not saying that you have to vote left or you have to vote right, but at least you have to have an ounce of critical thinking before you align with either side. Now, here's the thing. You say that only the left cares about identity politics, and basically the right is really the non-racist, colorblind party. That seems to be the premise of your video. Basically, the right wing is the one that judges you based on your merit. They don't care whether you're gay, straight, trans, Asian, black, Latino. The right wing is the one that doesn't play identity politics, okay? Right, let's see what a very famous figure of the right wing, Professor Amy Wax of Pennsylvania University, has to say. Okay, all right. Wax said April 8th on Tucker Carlson Today, they climb the ladder, they get the best education, they meaning Asians, yeah, Kenny? She's talking about guys like you as well. At least your brothers and sisters who don't vote right. You're saying that only the left plays identity politics here. Let's see what Amy Wax has to say. They climb the ladder, they get the best education, we give them every opportunity, and they turn around and lead the charge on we're racist, we're an awful country, and on some level, their country is a shithole. Yeah, so basically Amy Wax was being very, very blunt about the fact that, non-Western countries fundamentally are shitholes. That's why people move to the West, even though there are historic reasons for these countries being shitholes, and it's not only their internal policy. I could go on into the fact that they are the way they are, largely due to Western imperialism. But I'm not going to digress. Okay, let's see what she said about basically the U.S. might be better off with fewer Asians. And this is not a leftist talking, yeah? This is Amy Wax, who is a very hardcore right-winger, a very respected figure on the right, in fact, Kenny. And don't forget, there are right-wing people in Fox News who actually say things openly like, we need type A men, who are more than ready to sit on a mountain of Chinese cows. When are you going to condemn that, Kenny? When are you going to condemn that? Okay. All right. I'm ready to condemn boba liberals, but when are you going to condemn people like your friends on the right who say racist things against Asians? Okay, Wax said earlier this month that the US is better off with fewer Asians and less Asian immigration. Okay, why does she say that? Okay, let's see what Amy Wax has to say on that. Sorry, my phone is a bit buggy, but let's see. Okay, she says, if you go into medical schools, you'll see that Indians, South Asians are now rising stars. In medicine, they're sort of the new Jews, I guess, but these diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are poisoning the scientific establishment and the medical establishment now. Okay, and let's see what she says about, let's see what she says about Asian loyalty. Okay, if they don't vote right. I thought it was only the left that liked playing this sort of thing. Maybe it's just that Democrats love open borders and Asians want more Asians here. Perhaps they are just mesmerized by the feel-good cult of diversity. I don't know the answer, but as long as most Asians support Democrats and help to advance their positions, I think the United States is better off with fewer Asians and less Asian immigration. So I hate it when you see these right wingers pretending as if the right, the political right, is really the intersectional party, and they don't care about your identity, they don't care about identity politics, and they judge you on merit, and not they basically, like, it's the left that's the one that's about identity politics. I would argue that the right is all about identity politics, right? The thing about these Fox News model minority Asians like Shu is that we also have people like that in Asia. They tend to be Western educated with a very chauvinistic Anglo-Western point of view. They come back to Asia and they tend to mix around with really elite sort of circles of fellow gentrified Western educated Asians. They are the 5% of Asians, the crazy rich Asians in that movie Crazy Rich Asians, that the 95% of us hate. Those bootstrap Asians who basically these are like super westernized bourgeois type of Asians, Americanized Asians that tend to hang around places like Bangsa and Bonkiara with a very, very, oh god, somebody's doing some construction work outside, with a very insufferable bourgeois sort of mentality, who are hyper westernized and don't know anything about their Asian culture, who are planning already to move to America. These Asians, they're not even the mainstream Asian in Asia. Like those Fox News guys or people like Jordan Peterson, if they were to mix with typical mainstream Asians, people like Kwa Chu Kang, like those working class Asian type, they wouldn't even like them in the first place. They only like the hyper westernized Asian who basically, in all respects, is like a white conservative except for his Asian face. Someone like Kenny Shu or Joshua Wong. We have guys like that, but they're not typical of Asians in Asia. Yeah, they are like the 5% of westernized bourgeois Asians who went to international school from day one until the day they graduated, who know nothing about Asian culture, whose friends are a mix between other white international school students and basically very westernized Asians who do not even mix with normal Asians, right? Basically, yeah, they're the 5% of Asians that the 95% of us hate. And I just want to end this video by showing you how Kenny Shu's mask basically had to slip off. Even in a video that's supposed to be about empowering Asian men, he just had to demonstrate his contempt for the poor, right? By bashing down on the church janitor. Take a look.
Another part that you have to do is you have to train your confidence. You have to train your ability to go and talk to people, to network with people, to do something. You have to be doers. Women like doers. So in terms of the attractiveness level of Asian men, it's hurt by the fact that we are not confident in ourselves. By the fact that we are trained to be students. But here's the thing, girls don't like students. Attraction is not based on your goodness of your grades, and we've already established that. That's why the girls like to go out with the music worship leader instead of the church janitor, or instead of the intellectual bookie who just stays in the library all the time. That doesn't exude confidence. That doesn't exude a sense of knowledge of yourself. I'm not saying this to bash anyone. I know there are plenty of exceptions to this rule.